Andrew sat in the grand yet desolate living room of his sprawling mansion, the weight of his grief pressing heavily on his shoulders. It had been 2 years since the accident that took his wife, leaving him a widower and his daughter Serena blind at just 7 years old. Once filled with laughter, the mansion now stood as a hollow reminder of a family that once was. Andrew, a successful businessman, found himself powerless in the face of his daughter's pain and his own inability to reach her. Serena had retreated into a world of silence, shutting out not only the light but also her father. Struggling to help Serena heal, Andrew reluctantly followed a friend's advice and sought the help of a caregiver. That was how Grace entered their lives, a former music teacher and single mother to a lively 5-year-old daughter named Lily. Grace brought with her a quiet determination and a warmth that seemed to emanate even in the bleakest of moments. When Grace and Lily arrived at the ivy-covered mansion, Lily's eyes lit up with excitement. "Mom, is this where we're going to live? It's like a castle," she exclaimed. Grace gave her daughter a small smile, her nerves hidden beneath a calm demeanor. Andrew greeted them at the top of the mansion's stone steps, his voice weary yet polite. For a brief moment, Andrew hesitated. The sight of Grace's calm demeanor and Lily's bright, curious eyes stirred something in him, a flicker of hope he hadn't felt in years. But just as quickly, a shadow of doubt crept in. What if this was another attempt doomed to fail? He couldn't bear the thought of watching Serena retreat even further into her world. "Thank you for coming. I hope you and your daughter can bring some light back into Serena's life." "We'll do our best," Grace replied softly, glancing up at the darkened windows above. Behind those curtains, Serena sat alone, waiting unknowingly for a spark of hope. The car came to a halt in front of the large iron gates of the mansion, its ivy-covered walls standing tall and imposing. The gates slowly opened, revealing a gravel driveway that led up to the grand structure. Lily pressed her face against the car window, her eyes wide with amazement. "Mom, it looks like a castle from a fairy tale. Is this where we're going to live?" she exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. Grace gave her daughter a gentle smile. "Yes, sweetheart, this will be our new home." As she stepped out of the car, Grace took a deep breath. Determination mixed with trepidation coursed through her. Andrew stood waiting at the top of the stone steps, his face reserved but his eyes carrying the weight of exhaustion and sadness. He extended his hand politely. "Thank you for coming. I hope you and your daughter can help Serena find some light in her life again." Grace returned his handshake with a soft smile, sensing the pain hidden behind his composed demeanor. "We'll do our best." She glanced up at the darkened windows above, where Serena remained hidden away in her own world. Entering the mansion, Grace was struck by its grandeur and magnificence, yet there was an unmistakable coldness in the air. The tall walls, endless corridors, and soft light filtering through the windows created an atmosphere both majestic and somber. Andrew led Grace to the main sitting room, where a stern-faced housekeeper was waiting. "Lily, why don't you go with the housekeeper? She'll show you around," Grace said gently to her daughter. Lily eagerly grabbed the housekeeper's hand, skipping away, but turning back briefly to smile at her mother. "I'll be back soon, Mom," she chirped. Andrew watched Lily go, his expression softening. "She's a bright child. Hopefully her cheerfulness can bring some light to Serena," he said quietly. Grace nodded. "Let's hope so." Reaching the second floor, they stopped in front of a closed door. "She spends most of her time here," Andrew explained, his voice tinged with concern. "Serena doesn't like strangers, but I hope you can help her gradually open up." Grace took a deep breath and knocked gently on the door. There was no response. Andrew sighed and pushed the door open slightly. The room was dark, the curtains tightly drawn, with only the faint glow of a bedside lamp illuminating the space. Serena sat on the bed, her back to them as if trying to shut out the world. "Serena?" Andrew called softly, but there was no reply. He turned to Grace with an apologetic look. "I'll leave you to try." He stepped out, leaving Grace alone in the quiet room. Grace moved closer, keeping a respectful distance, and sat down on a chair near the bed. The sight of Serena curled up on the bed, her small frame trembling slightly, struck a chord deep in Grace's heart. She could see the invisible walls the little girl had built around herself, walls born of pain and fear. For a moment, Grace felt the weight of the task ahead of her. But then, she reminded herself why she was here. If anyone could help this child, it had to be her. She didn't speak immediately, letting her calm presence fill the room. "Serena, my name is Grace," she said softly. "I'm here to help you, or just to sit here, if that's what you'd prefer." Serena didn't respond, but Grace noticed her small shoulders trembling slightly. After a moment, Grace reached into her bag and took out a small music box. She turned the key gently and a soothing melody filled the room. Serena tilted her head slightly, her ears clearly drawn to the sound. Grace said nothing more, letting the music speak for her. In the stillness of the room, the first fragile threads of connection began to form. The next morning, Lily woke up early, excited to start the day. She quickly ran to Serena's door and knocked gently, her cheerful voice calling out, "Big sister Serena, do you want to come play with me today? I have something special to show you." From inside the room, Serena responded quietly, her voice tinged with sadness. "I don't want to. I can't see anything." Lily, undeterred, quickly replied, "That's okay, big sister. I'll show you how to feel things without seeing." She gently took Serena's hand and led her out of the room. Serena hesitated but couldn't resist the hopefulness in Lily's eyes. When they reached the garden, Lily began introducing Serena to the world through touch. "Big sister, this is a leaf," Lily said, placing a soft leaf into Serena's hand. "Can you feel the tiny veins? They're like secret little roads." Serena smiled faintly, for the first time feeling a spark of curiosity after so long. In the following days, Lily continued to visit Serena every morning, leading her outside. She brought flowers, fruits, or stones with interesting shapes. Lily shared funny stories, making Serena laugh more and more each day. Gradually, Serena started to feel at ease around Lily, as if the little girl's bright energy was slowly melting the darkness inside her. One afternoon, as they sat on the grass, Lily suddenly turned to Serena, her eyes bright and serious. "Big sister Serena, I want to tell you something," she said, her voice softening. "What is it, Lily?" Serena asked, tilting her head curiously. "When I was little, my dad left me and my mom," Lily began, her voice tinged with a quiet sadness. "I was really sad and angry at him, but my mom told me that sometimes the people who leave us still love and watch over us from afar. My dad isn't here, but my mom always makes me feel happy." Serena sat quietly, listening intently. Lily gently held her sister's hand and continued, "I think your mom is like that too." Serena sat quietly, listening intently. Lily gently held her sister's hand and continued, "I think your mom is like that too. She's not here anymore, but I believe she's watching over you from above and wants you to be happy. So you have to try to smile, okay?" Serena's lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something but didn't know how. Her grip on Lily's hand tightened just a little. For the first time, she wasn't trying to pull away. Instead, she let herself listen, truly listen, to the words of comfort from this bright, fearless little girl. Lily's innocent yet profound words touched Serena deeply. She lowered her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you, Lily," Serena whispered, her voice trembling. "She's not here anymore, but I believe she's watching over you from above and wants you to be happy. So you have to try to smile, okay?" Lily's innocent yet profound words touched Serena deeply. She lowered her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you, Lily," Serena whispered, her voice trembling. From a distance, Grace and Andrew watched the scene unfold. Grace smiled softly and turned to Andrew. "Lily isn't just bringing laughter, she's helping Serena feel the connection she's been missing for so long." Andrew nodded, his eyes filled with hope. One sunny afternoon, Grace gently encouraged Serena to go outside. "It's such a beautiful day, Serena," Grace said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Why don't we try going out to the garden with Lily? Some fresh air might be good for you." Serena shook her head slightly. "I don't think it'll help." But before Grace could say more, Lily burst into the room, her bright smile lighting up the space. "Big sister Serena, you can't say no to me. I have something amazing to show you," Lily said, tugging at Serena's hand with enthusiasm. Serena hesitated, but eventually let Lily guide her outside. The garden was vibrant that day. Flowers bloomed brightly under the golden sunlight, and the trees swayed gently in the breeze. Lily carefully led Serena down the stone path, pointing out different things for her to feel and explore. "Big sister Serena, this is a very pretty flower, but I don't know what it's called," Lily said, placing Serena's hand on a soft flower. Serena touched the petals, hesitating for a moment. Then, in a quiet but clear voice, she said, "This is a tigon flower." Lily froze, her eyes wide with surprise. She turned to her mother. "Mom, did you hear that? Big sister Serena just said it's a tigon flower. How does she know that?" Lily asked, her voice filled with confusion. Grace knelt down beside Serena, her hand trembling as she rested it on the girl's shoulder. "Serena, can you see?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. Serena closed her eyes briefly before opening them again, blinking a few times. I think I can. I see the flower," she whispered, her voice quivering as tears filled her eyes. At that moment, Lily let out a joyous scream and threw her arms around her sister. "Big sister Serena, you can really see? This is a miracle," she cried. Grace couldn't stop her tears from falling as she pulled both girls into a tight hug, her heart overflowing with gratitude. Hearing the commotion, Andrew rushed out from the house. He stopped in his tracks when he saw the radiant smile on Serena's face. "Serena, what did you just say? Can you really see?" he asked, his voice shaking. Serena turned toward her father, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can see, Dad, not just feel. I can really see the light and the flower." Andrew dropped to his knees, pulling his daughter into his arms. "Thank God. Thank you for this miracle," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. Lily held her sister's hand tightly, bouncing with excitement. "Big sister Serena did it. I knew you would." Under the warm sunlight of the garden, the family embraced, their hearts bursting with joy as the miracle erased every shadow of pain. Since the day the miracle happened in the garden, the atmosphere in the mansion had completely transformed. Serena no longer shut herself away in her room. Instead, she spent her days outside with Lily. Every morning, the laughter of the two sisters echoed throughout the estate, bringing smiles to Grace and Andrew's faces. Serena began embracing the changes in her life. Though her vision hadn't fully returned, the faint images she could see were enough to let her feel the light and colors around her. Lily was always by her side, constantly encouraging her to explore the world. "Big sister Serena, you have to promise to explore every corner of the garden with me. I want to show you the whole world," Lily said excitedly, holding tightly onto her sister's hand. Andrew, once a reserved and distant man, had also changed. He often spent time playing with the two girls in the garden or chatting with Grace. One evening, as the family gathered for a BBQ under the twinkling string lights, Andrew stood up and raised his glass. "I'd like to say a few words," Andrew began, his eyes meeting each person at the table before landing on Grace. "Grace, your arrival with Lily has completely transformed my life and Serena's. You've brought light and love back into this home." Grace smiled warmly, her gaze soft as she looked at Andrew. Lily immediately clapped her hands and exclaimed, "Mom is the best. And now I have big sister Serena too. This is perfect." Serena laughed, holding Lily's hand. "That's right. And from now on, I'll always be by your side." Under the warm glow of the lights, the BBQ continued with laughter and cheerful conversation. The mansion, once cold and lonely, was now full of life and joy. A few days after the miraculous event in the garden, Andrew decided to do something special for his new family. He suggested a trip to the beach to enjoy the fresh air and change of scenery. Grace was surprised by the idea but couldn't hide her excitement. "The beach? That sounds wonderful," she said with a smile. The trip was filled with joy. Serena and Lily spent the day building sand castles, their laughter ringing out across the shoreline. Andrew watched them from a distance, his heart swelling with a sense of completeness he hadn't felt since losing his wife. While Grace was busy playing with the two girls, Andrew pulled Serena and Lily aside to discuss a plan. "We need to do something special to propose to Grace," he whispered. Serena grinned. "I think Mom Lily will be so happy." Lily raised her hand excitedly. "Can we do something with seashells, Dad?" Andrew chuckled at his youngest daughter's enthusiasm. The three of them began planning meticulously. They collected the most beautiful seashells and arranged them in a heart shape on the sand near the waves. Serena and Lily helped spell out the words, "Will you marry me?" using small stones. That evening, as the fiery red sunset cast a warm glow over the beach, Andrew led Grace to the spot they had prepared. Small lanterns, carefully placed by Serena and Lily, surrounded the heart made of seashells, creating a magical, romantic setting. Andrew knelt down on one knee, holding a small velvet box in his hand. "Grace," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "you've brought light and love not just to Serena, but to me as well. I can't imagine life without you. Will you marry me?" Grace stood frozen, tears welling up in her eyes. Before she could respond, Lily and Serena shouted excitedly, "Say yes, Mom, say yes!" Grace laughed, looking at Andrew and then at the two girls. She nodded, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, I will." Andrew slipped the ring onto her finger, and Serena and Lily threw their arms around Grace. Under the warm sunset, the beach echoed with laughter and joy, marking the beginning of a complete and loving family. After the heartfelt proposal at the beach, Andrew and Grace decided to hold a small, intimate wedding in the garden behind the mansion. Under the soft sunlight and twinkling string lights, Grace walked down an aisle lined with flower petals, holding the hands of Serena and Lily, her two little bridesmaids, who were beaming with joy. Andrew stood waiting under a simple but beautifully decorated floral arch. When Grace reached him, he smiled warmly, his eyes filled with love and gratitude. The ceremony was simple, with no grand gestures, just heartfelt promises. "I promise to love and protect you for the rest of my life," Andrew said, looking at Grace with unwavering sincerity. Grace replied, her voice filled with emotion, "And I promise to stand by you and our children, building a family full of love together." Serena and Lily stood nearby, unable to hide their happiness. When the ceremony ended, Lily exclaimed, "Now we're really a family." Serena smiled softly, nodding, "Yes, we're a family." In the days following the wedding, the mansion was alive with laughter and joy. Serena and Lily continued their adventures in the garden, now a place filled with shared memories. Grace and Andrew often spent quiet afternoons together, talking about the future of their family. One evening, as they all gathered together, Andrew softly said, "We don't need a big house or extravagant things. With love and hope, we already have everything." Under the gentle glow of the lights, the sound of Serena and Lily's laughter filled the air, and the family continued to write their story, a story of love, healing, and family.